Regular viewers of this channel know I'm more than a little obsessed with the original 1933 King Kong, having gone on record stating it's one of the most influential movies of all time. Not only is it definitively the first blockbuster or feature the first fully scored film soundtrack, it is also a spectacle of special effects and imagination at a level previously unseen in the history of cinema. But if there's one man who can be considered King Kong's biggest fan, it wouldn't be me. Rather, it would have to be the late great Ray Harryhausen, whose childhood wonder upon seeing King Kong in theaters grew rapidly into a career as the world's only recognized visual effects auteur. Meanwhile, the 1950s birthed a plethora of giant monster movies, all of which owed their creation to the King of Skull Island, and Ray Harryhausen finally got the chance to make a movie to honor and hopefully recreate the magic of his childhood obsession.
"20 million miles to Earth.
An American spacecraft has just crashed off the coast of Sicily. Fishermen drag 2 men from the wreckage before it sinks into the depths, Colonel Calder and Dr. Sharman, the latter of which dies of an unknown disease. Meanwhile, a sample container from the planet Venus washes ashore, and within is an alien egg that hatches to reveal a Venusian creature called the Ymir that grows rapidly out of control and threatens to wreak havoc on humanity.
Around the time he was working on The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, special effects Superman Ray Harryhausen wanted to go on vacation, specifically to Europe. Unable to afford such a trip, he had the bright idea to pitch a location-heavy movie set in someplace like Italy, figuring he could get his European holiday if a studio would fund it. He went through some of his old story ideas and found one called The Giant Ymir, which was about a spacecraft crashing into Lake Michigan, which results in an alien creature running amok in Chicago. He scratched out Lake Michigan and Chicago in favor of the Mediterranean and Rome, and then developed the script with the help of actress/writer Charlotte Knight. They didn't base it off of King Kong as much as they ripped it off, but the project proved to be too expensive to produce at the time. So, with no studio accepting his pitch, Harryhausen filed it away and got to work on other films. Then, after the successes of It Came From Beneath the Sea and Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, both of which were produced by the duo of Charles H. Schneer and Sam Katzman, Harryhausen dusted off the giant Ymir and gave it to Schneer, hoping that the producer could find a way to cut the budget down and make it happen. Schneer had broken out on his own at this point, no longer co-producing with Sam Katzman, and after producing his first true solo production, the Ronald Reagan-led Hellcats of the Navy, he was more than happy to produce Harryhausen's new project, under the provision that it get a heavy rewrite by Bob Williams and Christopher Knopf. Though Schneer and Harryhausen would direct the location sequences in Italy, and Harryhausen would of course direct the stop-motion sequences himself, they needed another director to film the studio scenes and get the directorial credit. Therefore, Schneer turned to the man who had just directed Hellcats of the Navy, Nathan Juran, who was already well-versed in the giant monster genre after The Deadly Mantis. According to Harryhausen, he had a slightly larger budget to work with, but he was even more excited to finally get his European vacation. The topic of today's video was voted on by my patrons. If you'd like to have a say in some of the movies I cover, want to see bonus content, or just wish to support the growth of this channel, check out my Patreon or consider becoming a channel member. I'd like to give a special shout out to my $8 androids: Batty Bat Firebrand, Chuck Poor, Diane McGill Davis, Giffen Chumley, Jack Blair, John Burrell, Mike O'Connor, Numinous 2019, Patrick Baker, Robert McGill, Sean Vale, Spoats, TB Schrumick, and Warren Davis. I sincerely couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you all. For the lead role of Colonel Robert Calder, they cast legacy actor William Hopper, who had previously appeared in The Deadly Mantis and would, the year after 20 Million Miles to Earth, transition fully to television, where he would become best known as Paul Drake in Perry Mason. The female lead, Marissa, is played by Earth vs. the Flying Saucers veteran Joan Taylor, and though her character is contrived into the plot for a shoehorned romance that was typical for 50s B-movies, she gives arguably the best acting performance in the entire film.
Guess I've been pretty inconsiderate and self-centered. You've had a lot on your mind.
Her fellow Earth vs. the Flying Saucers co-stars, Thomas Henry and John Zaremba, also play significant characters in 20 Million Miles to Earth, Major General McIntosh and Dr. Uhl, respectively. Meanwhile, veteran Italian character actors Frank Puglia and Tito Vuolo play Dr. Leonardo and Commissioner Unte.
I intend to use every means at my disposal to destroy that creature before it kills someone.
And Doc Weaver himself, Arthur Space, plays the doomed Dr. Sharman. Little Pepe is played by a young Bart Braverman, credited as Bart Bradley, and William Woodson provides the uncredited narration for his fourth and final Harryhausen picture.
Equally unexpected was the next gigantic stride, when man moved out of his very orbit.
Finally, Ray Harryhausen himself is allegedly this background extra. Filming began in Rome in September of 1956, where only William Hopper was used from the main cast. The studio work was then done in the US in just a week and a half at the start of November, while Harryhausen put together the effects shots a month after that. For the Ymir, Harryhausen originally planned to make it a Cyclops, but discarded the idea, later using it for the seventh voyage of Sinbad. Instead, he decided he wanted to make the creature relatively human by giving it a human torso and an expressive face complete with a mustache-shaped upper lip, a facial design he had used before in his unused War of the Worlds Martian and would later use again for the Kraken in his magnum opus Clash of the Titans. During editing, they decided to remove all mentions of the creature's name, Ymir, because they were worried people would confuse it with the Arabic title, Ymir. The real elephant, which Harryhausen meticulously recreates in stop motion, was supposed to be 15 feet tall to match the scale, but the only elephant the filmmakers could get their hands on was roughly only half that. So to make it appear larger, they cast a little actor to play the zookeeper. For the record, in defense of the poor Ymir, it doesn't actually kill the elephant or anybody else outside of the soldiers attacking it during the climax. Harryhausen was very careful to show all stop-motion victims breathing after the Ymir's attacks, and there is dialogue confirming that the farmer who gets mauled in the barn survives his injuries.
The beast must be destroyed. He has injured one man badly, and he might kill others.
20 Million Miles to Earth was released in June of 1957, and though I can't find much information about its reception, it was certainly successful enough in its initial run, and its re-release under the title The Beast from Space, to allow Harryhausen to continue his work with Charles Schneer and even Nathan Juran. The whole trio teamed up in its wake to create The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, one of Harryhausen's most successful films. Before you ask, yes, I do intend to cover Harryhausen's fantasy movies in the future, now that I've exhausted all of his science fiction. 20 Million Miles to Earth is now considered one of Harryhausen's crown jewels, if for no other reason than the Ymir, who lands near the very top of many lists of best Harryhausen creatures. A colorized version was produced in 2007 that tried to realize Harryhausen's original intentions, but as colorizations go, it's not as good as the one they did for Earth vs. the Flying Saucers. I love 20 Million Miles to Earth because it feels like a realization of a lifelong dream for Harryhausen, who got his start in the effects business by obsessing over King Kong. Sure, he'd gotten to work with his hero Willis O'Brien on Mighty Joe Young, itself a spiritual successor to the 1933 classic, but 20 Million Miles to Earth is the closest he ever came to remaking King Kong in all its original glory. The story is nearly identical, though it is missing Skull Island dinosaurs and a character as memorable as Carl Denham, but rather than focusing on the folly of trying to monetize nature, it's a prescient precursor to the anxieties of the space race, which launched with Sputnik a mere 4 months after the movie hit theaters.
Why is it always so costly for man to move from the present to the future?
Though the science is questionable at best, Venus is not only absolutely inhospitable, but it never gets any closer than 25 million miles, and I always get hung up on how the Ymir can grow so rapidly without consuming anything but air and a bag of sulfur. It at least tries to maintain internal logic and a modicum of scientific detail better than most giant monster movies, even those made today. Therefore, in the oversaturated creature feature market of the 1950s, 20 Million Miles to Earth and the Giant Ymir stand out as a singularly wonderful sci-fi classic. And that's all for today, my fellow Earthlings. What's your favorite Harryhausen creation? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching, and until next time when we'll solve a global dilemma by literally tossing it into the sun, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
The rocket, with its complement of 17 men, had landed on the planet Venus.
Venus?
The planet Venus?